My daughter Mia was born on July 31st, 2019. Our pregnancy we thought was pretty normal, at least for the beginning parts. And in the third trimester, we found out that Mia was no longer growing properly. So we were being monitored a little bit extra close at that point in time. And we were going back weekly, and about 2 weeks later, they still weren't seeing the proper growth. So it was at that time that we were referred to the high-risk team, and they completed an ultrasound and confirmed that she was definitely behind in her growth. And the doctor wanted to do another ultrasound of his very own a couple of days later. And it was in that ultrasound that he saw that Mia had a heart defect. So this was the third trimester. We knew she was tiny. We knew she had a heart defect. And we changed hospitals 2 different times. They wanted us to deliver at one that was equipped for the potential for emergency surgery, for a long NICU stay, all of that stuff. And so we were hopeful. Everything was sounding good. The surgeon met with us. He told us that even if Mia needed surgery right out of the womb, that he would be able to take care of it regardless of how big she was. And so we were very confident, feeling very good. And around the 37th week was when they noticed that Mia really was no longer growing at all. So they scheduled a C-section because Mia was breached. And so we were scheduled for a C-section at 37 weeks, 4 days. And it was really cool because that night I was sitting on the couch with my husband, and we noticed Mia totally flip in my belly. And it was really amazing because she didn't move my entire pregnancy. And she was my first pregnancy, so I really didn't think that, it wasn't normal. And so it was really special to us, and we knew now she was head down and we would be able to have a natural birth. And so the next morning we went into the hospital and they did an ultrasound, and it was confirmed she did flip, and so we would be induced instead of having a C-section. So we were very excited about that. They started the induction process, and it was going very smooth for close to a day, actually. And I asked the doctor how I would know when she was coming out, I guess you could say. And so the doctor said that I would just feel all kinds of pressure and I would know. So the doctor checked, and I was dilated to a 5 at that point, and I knew it would still be some time given that information. And not too long later, I was starting to feel all of that pressure the doctor had told me about. So I told my husband to get the nurse, and the doctor came back in again and said, "You're still at a 5." And I told my husband that I'm like, there's no way I'm going to be able to go however many more hours like this. But I kept going, maybe 5 more minutes, and I told him that there's no way I was only a 5 still. So he got the nurse again, and they had a different doctor come in, and they didn't even get to check anything because Mia was already coming out. So it was all hands on deck at that point. They said this is go time. Everyone was scrambling. They got probably 10 specialists up into the room, but the doctor that was supposed to deliver Mia was not there. So a resident doctor and my husband essentially delivered Mia after about 2 pushes. She came right out, and it was terrifying. She was not breathing. I remember thinking that she was stillborn, and the specialist immediately took her to the other side of the room, and thankfully they were yelling stuff out, and they said that she was breathing, she had peed. So I was so excited. I knew she was alive, and that was the best news ever. So they stabilized her as best as possible. They brought her over to me. I held my baby for 10 whole seconds, and they whisked her off to the NICU. And she was very stable. They put her on some high flow oxygen. We thought everything was going great. Her heart was, stable enough for her to continue to grow for some time. And they would, let us know when she may need that surgery. Thankfully, it wasn't an emergency type of thing like we were potentially suspecting. And so for the next day or 2, everything seemed normal. Mia was doing very good. And my husband and I, Robert, we stepped out of the hospital for a bit and we ran over to Target, which was just next door, to grab some things. And it was in the Target parking lot that my phone rang, and it was a person that we had never spoken with. It was a department that we were not even aware was looking at our case, called genetics. And I remember being very caught off guard, and I was like, who are you? Why are you calling us? And she had said that they were highly suspecting a couple of genetic things going on with Mia. I was just starting to lose it. And so she said, we will likely have the results in tomorrow, and do you want to know what we tested for? And I just remember saying to her, I did not, and I didn't want to know anything until they had those official results. And she still continued to tell me things, and one of the things that she said that they are pretty confident my daughter had was trisomy 18. And she asked if I had ever heard of it. I told her I did not, I had never heard of it, and she said, okay. She said, well, you should know that Mia's life will be very short. It will basically be awful, is pretty much what she was telling me. And she proceeded to tell me not to Google it. And I still didn't even know what to say. I don't even remember asking any questions. I just hung up the phone and I totally lost it, trying to tell my husband what I thought just happened. And we went back to the Ronald McDonald House after visiting Mia again, and I Googled it all night long. And I tried to convince myself that she didn't have it, but I knew that deep down she probably did. And I talked to my husband the next day, and he was trying to remain hopeful and, keep me hopeful. And we went about our day the next day as best as we possibly could. We enjoyed our time with Mia, and we kind of just waited, thinking, okay, she hasn't come yet, maybe it's good news. And then she came to her NICU room at 5 p.m. on a Saturday, but she was by herself. So my mind was, this has to be good news. She does not have trisomy 18. She's by herself, there's no doctor with her, there's no chaplain, there's nobody with her. And she sat us down and she proceeded to say, your daughter has trisomy 18, full trisomy 18. And I lost it because I had spent the entire night before Googling it, and I knew all of the horrifying things. She proceeded to continue to tell me those horrifying things. She almost made it seem as if Mia's organs were eating themselves, is probably the best way I can put it. And basically told us that it was amazing that she made it through pregnancy, through birth, and that she was even still alive that 2 days after she was born. And that it would be in our best interest to take her home and just enjoy the time we had. It was crazy to think that we were in the same room as Mia, and she was alive, breathing, doing all of the things that she shouldn't have been doing, and we were being told all of this information. It was impossible to process, honestly. And thankfully, my husband was stronger through that conversation than I was, and while I was losing it, almost vomiting all over myself, he was sitting there trying to understand what she was telling us and trying to gather as much as we possibly could. I remember that first night we slept on the bed there, and every alarm that went off, I would jump up and go over to her bedside. And as a parent that has a child in the NICU, you quickly learn that there's a lot of alarms, and usually they're nothing. But we truly thought that the next alarm was going to be the end, and we just didn't have hope. And eventually, we kind of stepped away from the Googling, and we realized that there's a whole community out there on social media, and we started finding other families and connecting with them and realizing that there was toddlers out there was children out there, and there were even adults out there with my daughter's diagnosis. And from that point on, we changed our mindset entirely, and we knew that we were going to never stop fighting for Mia, and that we were going to give her the best life we possibly could. We knew that that meant not leaving the NICU on hospice, and it meant continuing the journey that we were already understanding we would have to go through. We knew she needed heart surgery, and she did. She had 2 heart surgeries. One was at just 2 weeks old, and she was a whole 3 pounds. But she rocked that surgery. She did amazing. We then went home a couple of weeks later from the NICU. She grew some more. She got up to about 8 pounds, and she had her next open heart surgery. She rocked that one, and everybody continued to be amazed by her. So with the online community, we have followed various stories on Facebook and Instagram, and one of them is Light for Levi. And I remember hearing about PWC through their journey, and I quickly realized that it was basically in our backyard. We live only about 30 minutes from Crystal Lake, if that, and it kept coming back. We were getting chiropractic care closer to home, and it was helpful, but we never really felt it was on the level of what we started to get at PWC once we finally decided to start coming here, and it has been amazing. We look forward to her chiropractic visits. We have seen amazing results. She had very bad torticollis, and that is gone. She had mild scoliosis, and at our last visit 6 months ago, so only 6 months into the chiropractic care, she no longer was considered mild scoliosis. Her doctor said that he honestly wouldn't even call it scoliosis, so that was incredible. She has taken off developmentally, and we've always been a family that we really look for outside of the box therapies and things to do with her, and we feel that chiropractic has helped her be at her best to be able to really get the full maximum capacity out of those therapies she's getting. It's amazing what she's been able to do over the last year, and we feel a big part of that is due to her chiropractic care. If I was connecting with another parent that was considering chiropractic for their child, especially one that may be similar in nature to Mia in terms of diagnosis or what they're going through, I would tell them to honestly just pull the trigger and start. I feel as any special needs mom, you're always questioning and second guessing everything, but my best advice is to follow your mom gut and give it a try. I know for myself, deep down I always knew we would come to PWC, but it took us 6 months for whatever reason to actually pull the trigger. And looking back, I wish I had done it sooner. Dr. Jake specifically has been instrumental for us just understanding what what's going on in Mia's brain and her body in general. And I could only, recommend it enough is just go in there for a consult at minimum and just see what they could do for your child and then go from there. My name is Jeanna, and we will make it through the storm.